We all know the saying, all roads lead to Mr. Wonderful. While this isn't always true, Kevin is oftentimes the only shark to make an offer.
Thank you. That's a very generous offer.
It is, because
Yes.
nobody would loan you money except Mr. Wonderful.
Now, his offers aren't the cheapest given that they're riddled with royalties and debt, but he usually asks for less equity than all the other sharks. In many cases, he even offers lower equity deals just to squeeze the other sharks and force them to make better offers themselves.
Give me the 200,000 as a loan. Okay, I'll only take 8% equity just to mess with Barbara because she said bad things to me.
Kevin also never puts time limits on his deals like some other sharks. So, though Kevin is often portrayed as the evil bald dude in the middle, I think Kevin is actually the fair shark of them all. In most cases, he just wants a fair valuation and a clear path to profitability for himself and the entrepreneur. Despite this, Kevin is often the last choice for entrepreneurs, which is a shame, given that Kevin is usually the second wealthiest shark in the tank and the most straightforward. So here's the story of Kevin O'Leary and how he became Mr. Wonderful. Taking a look back, Kevin's story dates back to July 9, 1954 in Montreal, Canada. His official name is actually Terrence Thomas Kevin O'Leary, so Kevin is not actually his first name. Anyway, Kevin's father was a salesman while his mother ran a small local business. This provided the family a decent life for a couple of years, but this didn't last long. You see, Kevin's father slowly became more and more of an alcoholic, which caused several fights between Kevin's parents, eventually resulting in a divorce. To make things worse, Kevin's father died soon after the divorce when Kevin was just 7 years old. This forced Kevin's mother, Georgette, to really grind on the business and look for other streams of income. Most people in this situation would generally pick up a second job and/or downscale their lives, but interestingly enough, Georgette decided to make up the discrepancy through investing. Every week, Georgette invested 1/3 of her paycheck in large-cap dividend-paying stocks, and this is what really sparked Kevin's interest in business and investing. Fortunately, things got better financially after Georgette married an economist named George Kanawati. Given that he worked for the UN though, the family had to constantly move around the world. Usually, this would be a disadvantage because moving is often just a nuisance. But in Kevin's case, I think it was actually a massive advantage because he wasn't moving from Minnesota to Michigan or something. He was moving from Tunisia to Cyprus to Cambodia to Ethiopia. Each of these places had radically different cultures, languages, and traditions, which really opened Kevin's eyes to the other side of the world. This actually inspired Kevin to capture his experiences by becoming a photographer. But due to his stepfather insisting on him attending college, Kevin would end up at the University of Waterloo where he majored in environmental studies and psychology. He would quickly turn around and complete an MBA at the University of Western Ontario in 1980. But this was basically the end of Kevin's journey through the normal path. Kevin was pretty set on avoiding a regular 9-to-5 ever since his first job at an ice cream shop. Kevin was hired as an ice cream scooper, and while this seemed like a pretty chill high school job to earn some extra money, the money isn't what drew Kevin to the shop. The main reason Kevin applied for the job is because the shop was located in a mall, and his crush, Elizabeth, had a job at the store right across the ice cream shop. Kevin was hoping that by working at the ice cream shop, Elizabeth would notice him, and that they could potentially grab lunch one day. But Kevin's dreams were shattered on the second day. You see, right as his second shift came to an end, Elizabeth would notice him. This made Kevin ecstatic as he could talk to her right after the job ended. But then, the owner of the shop asked Kevin to scrape the gum off the floor before leaving for the day. Given that Elizabeth had noticed him, Kevin didn't want to be seen doing such a job. So he came up with a witty response saying that he was hired to be a scooper, not a scraper. And as you would guess, this got Kevin fired. As soon as Kevin got home, he complained to his stepfather about his experience and told him that he never wanted to work another job. To this, his stepfather replied, "Well, even if you're self-employed, you'll be responsible to customers and shareholders who are often just as demanding, if not more demanding." Kevin says that he refused to believe his stepfather at the time, but now he realizes that he was completely right. Nonetheless, Kevin was determined to avoid a traditional job, and this is what drove him towards photography. But it didn't take him long to channel this energy into a business. After college, he would end up starting special event television or set with 2 of his MBA classmates. They put out some semi-successful sports programming including The Original Six, Don Cherry's Grapevine, and Bobby Orr and the Hockey League. They also produced soccer films, sports documentaries, and sports commercials. While this was somewhat successful, Kevin knew that this was not the path that he wanted to go down. So, when one of his partners offered to buy a stake for $25,000, Kevin would take the deal. He instantly turned around and used this money to start a new company, and that brings us to SoftKey. Kevin founded SoftKey in 1986 with the two business partners named John Freeman and Gary Babcock. Middle-class families were just starting to get their first computers around this time, so Kevin knew that there would be a lot of derived demand in the coming years. Looking back, I think Kevin would have far preferred to start a software company like Adobe or Autodesk, but at the time, he ended up choosing educational software. The reasoning for this was that the education niche was under-targeted by competitors, but this wasn't a mistake. You see, the education niche is extremely difficult because either you're dealing with schools with extremely restricted budgets and drawn-out approval processes, or you're dealing with parents who don't really see the value of their product. The pitch to sell the product isn't particularly easy either because the benefit isn't monetary. With something like Photoshop, the value is obvious. You get Photoshop to produce better pictures and drive in more revenue for your business. With educational software though, parents have to hope that the software helps their kids get a better education, and hope that it makes a meaningful difference in their lives, and hope that it pays off when they grow up and start making money. As you can see, there are a lot of ifs and hopes, and the ROI timeline is extremely long, which makes the business extremely difficult. It didn't take long for Kevin to realize this, and this forced him to place a heavy emphasis on marketing. Kevin says, quote, "What's inside the box is important, but it's not as important as how it's marketed." SoftKey was one of the first companies to embrace the revolving CD rack, which allowed them to display their CDs more efficiently than any of their competitors. Kevin also chose to display the product in more general stores like Office Depot, Radio Shack, and Smith Books as opposed to just traditional software stores. This showcased the product to a much broader audience, leading to substantially more revenue. Aside from smart marketing, Kevin also chose to keep the price of the software as low as possible at $40 to $100. This left the company with razor-thin profit margins, but allowed them to move much more volume and made it difficult for new competitors to enter the scene. SoftKey would become the dominant education software company by the early 1990s, and with that, Kevin would start to buy out his competitors. In 1993, SoftKey would merge with WorldStar International and Spinnaker Software to create SoftKey International. Just 1 year later, they would purchase Software Marketing Corp using 600,000 shares of common stock. But their most influential acquisition didn't come until 1995 when they got into a bidding war to purchase the Learning Company. SoftKey did end up winning the war, but it would cost them $606 million. Around the same time, SoftKey would also purchase Minnesota Educational Computing Corporation for $370 million. All of this made SoftKey bigger than ever before, but they were also more fragile than ever before. All these acquisitions had taken a toll on SoftKey's balance sheet, and their razor-thin margins didn't help much either. Luckily though, Mattel would offer to buy the company for $4.2 billion in 1999. Kevin of course took the deal, and this allowed him to sell his company at the peak of the dot-com bubble. While this was a smart move for Kevin, this was disastrous for Mattel. In the year following the acquisition, Mattel's goal for SoftKey was a $50 million profit. But the company ended up losing over double that at $105 million. Investors were not happy at all by these results, and they would start to dump Mattel stock, leading to a $3 billion decrease in Mattel's valuation in a single day. A group of Mattel's investors would get together and file a class action lawsuit against Mattel and Kevin for misleading investors and making a terrible acquisition. Kevin and Mattel would initially deny all charges, but eventually Mattel would give in. First, in 2000, Mattel would decide to dissolve all of SoftKey's assets. They sold the education division to Gore Technology Group. They sold the entertainment division to Ubisoft, and they sold the brand name of the Learning Company to Riverdeep Interactive Learning. Mattel took massive losses on each of these sales, and to make things worse, they agreed to settle the lawsuit in 2003 by paying out $122 million. This was truly quite unfortunate for Mattel, but things couldn't be better for Kevin. Kevin says that he was never chasing money with the SoftKey, but rather chasing freedom. And now that he had sold his company, he had more money than he could ever need. Kevin's net worth is currently estimated to be around $400 million, and though that's a solid amount, it's pretty modest compared to where he could be. Even if Kevin just invested all of his money in something like the S&P 500, he'd likely be worth a few $1 billion today. But Kevin has far preferred to preserve his wealth than grow his wealth. He does have some speculative/risky investments in his portfolio like Bitcoin and Tesla. But these account for a very small portion of his portfolio, and he doesn't let them grow past 5% of his portfolio. Aside from limiting his exposure to speculative investments, Kevin likes to keep a lot of his wealth in cash and bonds, which is obviously not the best for growth. Kevin also avoids debt like the plague and advises that people should get rid of their mortgage as fast as possible. Considering this super conservative investment style, it's not clear if Kevin will ever reach the $1 billion mark. But like I said, Kevin doesn't really care about that. It doesn't really matter for his kids either, as Kevin refuses to leave any inheritance money. Kevin believes that you curse a child when you de-risk their lives, and he absolutely despises entitlement. He doesn't want any of his children or grandchildren to have a poor childhood due to bad parents though. So he created a trust that gives his descendants money up until the day they graduate college. But after that, they're on their own. In the meantime, Kevin has spent his free time revisiting his passion for photography. Apparently, he owns a massive collection of Nikon and Canon cameras, and he owns every lens you can think of. Considering all the work he put in to get to this point, I think it's only fair that he's finally able to enjoy his wealth and explore his passions. But that's just what I think. Are you guys a fan of Mr. Wonderful? Comment that down below. Also, drop a like if you agree that Kevin is the most underrated shark on Shark Tank. And of course, consider joining our Discord community to suggest future video ideas and consider subscribing to see more questions logically answered. But until then, I'm Hari, and I'll see you guys on the next one.